You've been asking me for a long time to do an episode about my thoughts on love. So, as someone living in Istanbul, I'll try my very best to describe to you society's thoughts on love. Here, all the lonely souls of the city gather in the same place. In Kuru Çeşme, Bebek, and Ortaköy, bars, restaurants, everywhere is absolutely packed to the brim. And when these lonely, isolated people come together, I think a thick, dirty smoke covers the entire sky. If you ask, they'll say it's from the smell of grilled food from these restaurants. But in my opinion, that dirty smoke is actually the overflowing reflection of the feelings these lonely people hide from each other. Everything flawed, corrupted, or shameful in their existence rises up to the sky. As their hopes slowly run out, as their sense of being wasted on each other slowly grows, a dense smoke and a dense fog begin to cover the wounded asphalt. In fact, nothing really significant was happening in these people's lives. Nothing was being experienced. These lonely people who couldn't find love were just pretending as if something had happened. Colorless, empty lies followed one after another, relentlessly. Hostage headlines, their gazes fixed on an utter emptiness. The world of these people spins so incredibly fast that no one truly has the time to wait for anyone else at all. No matter how truly bad things got in the world, the people gathered there insisted, albeit falsely, that absolutely everything and life itself were indeed getting much, much better. And as they vigorously defended this particular viewpoint, they tried to hide the terrible genocide within themselves. There was a strange uncertainty, especially on their faces. The world was no longer the world we knew, and in my opinion, what they were doing could hardly be called living. Because now there were Bentley Bentegas and Lamborghini Uruses being sold for 7 million euros. A lighter used to light a cigar started at the price of 2 or 3 minimum wages. Especially to buy that watch they glanced at while the cigar was burning, you had to get in line a year and a half or 2 years in advance and somehow set aside at least $600,000 or $700,000. All of this was actually for two very basic fundamental urges: for the ego to truly feel good about itself and to visually possess the most absolutely perfect woman. To possess was a very important word in this world. Do you know the reason why? Because beneath this simple word lay the desire to fulfill all of the female's needs. And in fact, the more of these needs a man could meet for more women, the more of a man he became. In fact, when you look deeper, it was the blind, cowardly egos of men, egos that had never dared to fight for their own existence even once in their lives, that were clashing. That's precisely why the men here would often show inexplicable mercy to absolutely everyone inside. But then, when they went outside, they would unleash baseless hatred upon everyone they encountered. In short, this entire world was no longer the familiar world we once knew, and living was no longer the existence we once knew either. The profound change happening here in Istanbul was truly different from anywhere else. What was happening here was actually a kind of genocide inflicted by social media on the human race, where everyone appeared rich, everyone seemed high class, proper, and like a real man. Understanding and empathy were coming to an end. In their world, there was no touching or feeling. Remembering a feeling, a memory, or a moment had disappeared. Loving someone like a child and attributing endlessly beautiful meanings to their every action was incomprehensible to them. There was no entertainment or craziness. They hadn't tried to forget themselves. But no matter what measures they took to forget everything, the merciless genocide that had begun within their souls never ended. They suffered terribly, both emotionally, yet still what they feared most was suffering and dying. I couldn't be angry at these people, because they were so incredibly lonely. Each and every one of them thought only of saving themselves from the impending and terrible disasters. It was as if they were cursed, but all of them had a very strong religious faith. What should be said about the women? We always criticize the men. Colorful and vibrant clothes, sharp high heels, delicate anklets, shiny and polished nail polish, and the alluring sensuality of perfume scents. When you looked, bold necklines would first size up the person in front of them, and if they believed he was economically satisfying, their glances would then turn inviting. These quick glances and easy introductions always truly happened during the nights centered around the money, of course. When I went to such places, to such moments, my own thirst would also start to grow. Do you know, the utterly irresistible allure of women, the seductresses, the fantasies of the privileged society would drive the blood in your veins wild. On those nights, I couldn't behave the way I did with my previous lovers. A different, dirty, wicked side of me would emerge. I would gaze at the perfected form of all my partner's flaws, as if sculpted by the science of aesthetics, and succumb to my animalistic passion. But this environment was strange, It was strange and wrong. When you went to the very same place the next day, I would clearly see that two individuals who had passionately made love like wild animals the night before were now completely and utterly disconnected from each other, and in fact I would fully expect them to blame themselves, to somehow truly realize what was happening, Because after being together the night before, I would expect them to feel ashamed of each other for leaving no trace on each other's souls. But I never actually saw that particular situation happen either. I was never truly ashamed to openly express my heart, but I would often feel a profound base sense of inferiority from what I experienced with these specific people. It was in those profound moments of deep shame that I would truly look at them and clearly see that none of the boundless, unwavering confidence they so outwardly projected truly remained. It had completely vanished, utterly gone. I distinctly saw how the sticky, truly poisonous necessity of being a truly civilized person deeply tainted their very veins, their very essence. Even though these relationships upset me, and I spent time with those people, I never held a grudge or tried to take revenge on them, because taking revenge was something only those in the third dimension could do. I would often think, if I truly can't be myself, what exactly am I even doing here? And I would then start waiting in utter despair for when I would next intensely thirst for another human body. Back then, I could never quite fully answer myself as to why I consistently acted this way, but absolutely nothing ever truly changed in the places where these people gathered. In other words, there was absolutely nothing new to experience. Here, people were merely just pretending to live their lives, but in reality, nothing substantial was actually being truly lived at all. Lonely people were just pretending that things had happened, and colorless, deceptive lies kept piling up on top of each other. Hostage gazes would often lock onto one another, and the love-making that happened would inevitably turn into torment the very next day. Here, in this desolate place, I was the only one like me, and I had no one but myself to rely. I would stay silent, I would pretend to live among them. So, when you truly look at it, the profound influence of truly beautiful and deeply expressive women, and the actually misguided and often empty egos of men who genuinely think they can get absolutely everything with mere money, are what I firmly believe will shape the complex love life of 2025. None of them would ever truly be able to fully satisfy each other without needing visual appeal. They would never dare to genuinely love a kind-hearted woman solely for her inner heart. And because of this, they would never be able to put an end to the deep pain they suffered in this utterly unfulfilling life. In fact, if they truly approached each other's human sides, perhaps every morning when they opened their eyes, they would feel a sense of fulfillment as if seeing each other for the first time. Wasn't that how it was supposed to be anyway? Or didn't normal people truly live their lives like that? Wasn't it customary to turn love into passionate devotion, passion into an enduring eternity, and to be profoundly grateful for every single day spent with a truly kind-hearted love? They couldn't do it. And they never ever could have. No true love, no truly peaceful home, no calm and gently flowing city-weary life would ever allow for it. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could ever come before their overwhelming need for their fragile egos to be seen, admired, and constantly talked about. Whenever they truly started to think like a normal, well-adjusted person, whenever something in their tumultuous life began to feel genuinely calm and peaceful, a sneaky, insidious monster would inevitably wake from its deep sleep and start slowly poisoning their very blood. This isn't what life is about. You should be higher up. You should be seen on TV, in magazines. You should be the one who truly makes people quench their thirst with your very body and with your generous wallet. And seeing all of this, I would become even more deeply attached to finding that truly kind-hearted woman. I would try to significantly shrink the emptiness inside of me. As I observed their diminishing souls, I would try to become completely whole. I would look at these people who truly tried to improve their incomplete, ordinary, worthless, and boring lives only with material things and superficial aesthetics, and I would feel quite sad. When I started truly thinking like this, I would often drift from place to place. On those long, lonely nights filled with intense lust, I would inevitably witness their growing insecurity and feel profoundly saddened by it all. And during the times I spent and lost with them, a part of me would think, this isn't it. I shouldn't be increasing this emptiness. I never supported their prolonged hours of intense lust, profound betrayal, and utter madness. Actually, throughout my entire life, I have always consistently preferred to genuinely be real, to truly be myself, without any pretense or artificiality. Neither the highly sought-after figure of the night, like them, nor a struggling woman trying to escape a life of servitude beside a man, desperately trying to satisfy her fundamental economic needs. With my own orphan soul, left to seek belonging and a sense of wholeness, I truly tried to lift the heavy veil of mist above the distant stars by myself. I would often doubt myself, but deep down I knew that these cursed inherited genes should never ever have touched me at all. All the time I spent observing these people created a great sense of delusion within me. It was as if I had lived for thousands of years, yet still hadn't learned my lesson. Maybe I was a restless lunatic who destroyed everything I built each time and not content with that, ruined the lives built upon me. Maybe I was just a coward, because I still truly couldn't really be with a truly kind-hearted woman. Or maybe every single time I found true happiness, I was suicidally brave for foolishly pushing it away, pushing that kind-hearted, wonderful woman away with the back of my hand. I just truly don't know what to think. Did I live by my instincts to prove I was brave, or did I always lose my lovers because I wanted to experience the love I desired with the woman who knew everything perfectly? By pruning away fear with pain, in the madness rooms where hope falls silent, I trampled the corpse of my own body thousands of times. How much longer indeed would I truly go on, perpetually losing and utterly destroying life? Or, at the very end of all time, what was truly and genuinely waiting for me? I honestly can't remember any of it. Actually, I do know, you know? Betrayal is a complex phenomenon that has existed for many centuries. Why does a person truly betray another? Is it primarily out of fear, insecurity, or perhaps even loneliness? Actually, I knew, by truly believing in the absolute truth with all my entire being, I was profoundly betraying myself. I was indeed betraying my very existence, my deepest, innermost self. In fact, I wasn't betraying love itself, that pure and essential feeling, but rather the difficult and challenging circumstances that unfortunately prevented us from truly experiencing and fully embracing that love.